Welcome to Gail's Garden Herbs and More. We are right now going through a strange time in our country, around the world. People are talking about growing your own food, growing your own animals for your own meat, a lot of things, because we may be going through a difficult time to get back on our feet until our industries can get going again. But there's something that some folks aren't talking about, and I think it's very, very important, and that's herbs. Now, some people are, but herbs are more than just they are pretty, they're good for the aesthetic value, but there's so much. You can use them for medicine, for cooking, your health in general, to add to other things, to feed to your animals. I could go on and on and on. People, we need to look into learning more about herbs. That pretty little plant that's coming up there is the beginning of a plant called feverfew. It grows beautiful little cheery flowers. That is a very good medicine. Doesn't taste real great, but it's a good medicine. Down underneath there is something, it's a chocolate mint. It smells wonderful. It makes a wonderful tea that's good for you. I don't know, they say it's supposed to repel certain bugs or mice or whatever, but the bugs seem to like to eat mine. Notice the little holes. Nasturtium make beautiful flowers, but it's also a medicine and a food at the same time. The flowers can go into your salads. I have talked about some of these things. There's a spicy oregano. There's regular oregano. There's just so many things that we do with herbs. Now, this is my herb wheel. I'm sorry about the chicken wire around it, but it keeps out cats and chickens. It's a simple little thing we just do together for me to put some of my herbs. I've also got them throughout the yard and throughout my garden, all over, and I'm hoping to get this. They're just cheap little boards that we used, but I'm hoping to get the plants up big enough I can eventually take the wire and stuff off, because the cats won't be able to dig it up, and it's okay if the chickens eat a little bit, as long as they don't eat all of it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that or not. Maybe I can find something a little prettier than that eventually, but right now any money we come in contact with goes to trying to be prepared for whatever is coming up in our country. You don't have to have anything fancy or even an herb wheel. This is something I'd wanted for years. But you can grow herbs in pots. You can grow them in the ground. There's just so much that you can do with herbs. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about a few herbs just to get you some familiarization, or to get your mind thinking along in these directions. This right here is calendula, and it's a beautiful flower. I almost hate picking the blossoms because the flowers, they're so beautiful. But I pick them and I dry them and I make an oil from them, and I use that oil in my baths, on my facial serum, and just all kinds of things. It's really exceptionally good for your skin. I also pick off the petals and I add them to my all-purpose seasoning, because it's very good for the gut too. Anything to do with the skin or the lining of your gut, all that. I'm not going to go into particulars about each of the herbs right now. I have other videos where I just focus on one herb at a time, but I just want to get some familiarization out there and some ideas in your head and what you might be growing. The seeds to calendula are not really expensive, or if you can find somebody that's growing them, maybe they can save some seeds for you, or you could do a seed swap, or barter something that you might have with someone else. That's a great idea right now, is bartering. You can do things like, this is stevia. You can grow your own sweetener. I've talked about this in other videos. I make a tincture that I use. It's really good. Instead of putting sugar and lemonade, stevia doesn't go well with everything, a stevia tincture. But I make a lemon ginger lemonade. I put no sugar, and I just put my stevia tincture in it, and it tastes really good. Sometimes I'll just use the dried leaves in some of my teas. but I don't really like the flavor that well, except for a few things that I really like the stevia in. It's just the way I am, but maybe I could get used to it. You can train your taste buds, but it's really hard for me to get away from honey and stuff like that. I love my sweeteners, but I am trying, and this does help to cut back on that. But yeah, that's another herb. And you know, this one has a lot of benefits that a lot of people don't talk about. Sometime I need to do just a video. I don't think I've done one strictly on stevia. I've talked a little bit, but not really done the whole monograph type thing. But another thing is talking about infusing. You need, once you grow them, you need to learn, and it's hard. I know for a long time I knew about this stuff, but I hadn't actually done it, and I thought, oh, it just sounds so hard and difficult, and I was busy, and now some of us aren't so busy as we used to be. Oh, I am. I'm busy all the time, but nevertheless, I find time to make my infused oils. This is a lavender and calendula and jojoba oil. Now, I may not be able to afford to get jojoba oil fairly soon. Who knows? But I can use whatever oils that I can find. Olive oil is really good too. It's a little heavier oil, but it is good for the skin and stuff. You can use a lot of things. But I put my lavender and my calendula oil and infused them into the oil and made an oil that I use for salves, for my facial serum, just, I don't know, whatever happens to come up my imagination at the time. You can grow, this is plantain. I stuck a few dock leaves on the top. I've got that written down. You always want to, when you get started in your herbs, you think you're going to remember, but you don't. And after you dry them, a lot of herbs look very similar. You have to label, and it's a good idea to put a date on it so you know how old they are and use the oldest ones first, or if they get too old, they're not as potent. Sometimes I just throw a bunch of my older herbs that are getting older together and make a greens mixture or a tea of some sort that I make sure I use them up right away. But you do need to label your herbs. These are just things that I picked out in the yard. I didn't, seed them and start them or anything. I just take a walk through the yard and the fields and pick in the springs, especially when it's coming up and all that nutrition is going into the new leaves and everything. Really, really good. Now this here is my own homemade version of Neosporum, and it's just comfrey oil. That's another use for one of your oils. Tea tree essential oils. It's a good idea to stock up on essential oils. Some people even know how to make them. That's something I've never done. I have so many irons in the fire. I have to pick and choose what I have time to do and I don't have time for. Vitamin E also helps preserve, and it's very good for your skin and stuff. So I always put vitamin E in my salves usually. And beeswax, and that gives it the consistency. So you just dip it out, and I sent a bunch over for. That smells so good, for my granddaughter too. As you can see, we've been using it. But if Rooster Garden's watching, I made a pain salve for him, but I put a little extra beeswax in his because I had to mail it clear across country. I was afraid of it melting and maybe getting out of the jar somehow or something. I made it pretty tough, and it's not as soft as this one is, but it's still usable. So this is just a tincture. It's an elderberry tincture. Now, a lot of people talk about elderberry syrup, but some people can't have that sugar and think, how am I going to get my elderberries? Well, I put elderberries in my tea mixtures. This is a elderberry tincture, so if we're sick, I can just take it and not have all that sugar. I do and have made elderberry syrup, but mine doesn't last very long in the fridge and it gets molded, or it's just good to it's really, really good on pancakes and stuff like that if you're going to use it right away. But I wanted the elderberry tincture because sometimes I get sick unexpectedly and I don't have any elderberry syrup made. This lasts. Tinctures last forever just about, it seems like. And I can get my elderberry in that way without sugar, and I have it ready available. So tinctures are not that hard to make. I have a few videos on making. I need to make some more. My earlier videos were maybe not as easy to watch. I'm hopefully learning how to do this stuff, but the tech part of it, I have the knowledge. It's just technology, knowledge of the stuff. Some of it I need to learn a lot more, but technology I'm trying to learn. But anyway, tincture. Okay, this one is just plain old oregano leaves, okay? Just oregano leaves. I tell what it is and the year that I put it up. Usually I put the month. I guess I just put the year on this one. I use it pretty fast, so I guess I wasn't too worried about it, but I still should have put the month and the year, not just the year. Shame on me. But anyway, this is just to use in my cooking, but I also make an oil out of it that I add to my Epsom salts. And I have oregano oil, and I also put some oregano essential oil with that. With my Epsom salts, I shake it up real good and I put it in my bath. It's a very good antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. Oregano is wonderful, and oregano is one of those herbs that for my body, oregano and I are just buddies. It works really well for me. And as you get into herbs, you will find certain herbs that work better for you than they might for someone else. I often use an example. I like it because of the smell and stuff, is lavender. Lavender really doesn't put me to sleep or do much for me, but I like the smell. It's good to mix with some of my other stuff. And it has some beneficial, I'm sure, stuff. It just doesn't work as well for me as something like oregano. Just a few ideas to get you thinking about it. And I wanted to show you one more thing. Okay. Down here, if you can see it, I got this camera. Let me get, this is one type of lavender. It's a French lavender. I have the other type too, but notice this weed that was growing in it right here. Okay, there's a couple names for this. It's called lamb's quarters or goosefoot because the leaf almost looks like the shape, if you can see against my hand, I don't know, of a goosefoot. I didn't pull that out because that is one of the most tastiest weeds you've ever eaten, and it's very good for you. It's along the lines of a mild spinach maybe, but it's better, I think, than even spinach. It is really, really good. So once you start learning a few of these very generalized herbs, these are growing all over the place. Yes, I did seed some of this year. I actually bought lamb's quarter seeds and sowed them. Some people probably think I'm crazy, but this is an excellent food. So once you start learning a few things, and one of the easiest ways, and you may not have access to it, so just have to do the best, start. The thing is start. But one of the things, and I encourage people to do, is go on herb walks with other people that know about herbs. That was the quickest way that I learned. The quickest way to learn, because just from a book, just from pictures, people show me pictures. What is this, Gail? And I hesitate to say, I think it might be, but I really can't say 100% because unless you're right there, sometimes there's things you see in person that you just don't see in a picture in identifying a plant. But if you just do the basic ones, order some seeds like this. You can order lamb's quarter seeds. Just type it in on eBay or something and get some and plant it, and then you'll know what it looks like and you'll be familiar with it and you'll have some. The important thing is just get in and do. Make yourself do. And I'm hoping this video will be an encouragement to you all to do just such a thing, is just get in and start using some herbs and learning about it, as well as I know it's hard right now. You're trying to get so much knowledge, some of you that aren't into it, but just try a few things. You don't have to know everything about herbs to get started in it. Do some basic ones you're familiar, you've probably used all your life, like oregano. That's in your Italian seasoning. So yeah, I just want to encourage you all to really think about this and get started right away. I also hope you give me a thumbs up, give me a comment on what you think about this video, and I hope you all have an herbally wonderful day.